Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're really excited here at all the possibilities of introducing and discussing the tools to give your site's look and feel a boost and bring it into 2017. This is a 30-minute webinar, so we'll be covering a lot of ground quickly. I'm Pramila Devadas with Vanguard Technology, and with that, I will hand it over to Chris Bonney to get things rolling.
Thanks, Pramila. Appreciate that. And as she said, this will be a quick webinar. We'll cover a lot of ground. Looking forward to it. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. We're here today to talk about your website being stuck in a time warp. Many are. Some are obviously stuck, and some are stuck without actually knowing it. We'll cover ground today to help all of you determine where you fit in the mix and what you can do, some practical fixes to get your website in a better place right away. Why is it important to keep your site current? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One of them is what's known as the 59-second rule. According to the Nielsen Norman Group, which is a highly respected web usability consultancy, people generally stay on a website 59 seconds or less. That means you have a minute to get your members, or even more importantly, potential members, where they want to go on your site, or they're gone. If your site is dated, hard to navigate, you're likely losing users and might not even know it or know why. So let's explore that a bit here today. So yes, sure, some throwbacks can be nostalgic and stand the test of time, which is great. Old TV shows can be a pleasure, a blast from the past, but this is not something we aspire to do on our websites, right? There are no Fonzies, as much as we love them, in the world of association websites. So how do you know if you're in a time warp? Here are some dead giveaways. Okay? And you may get a chuckle because some of these things are pretty dated concepts, but the truth is there are still sites out there with things or comparable things like this. Okay? Animated GIFs. Nobody has a dancing baby on their site anymore, but, or maybe never did. But the idea here is to think, are we using animated GIFs in a way that says, hey, this is how we want to draw attention to the eye of the user. We're trying to create some energy on our page, and so we're using these motion images. It's really a thing that's drifting into the rearview mirror. Obviously, scrolling news stickers, you don't see a lot of those. In images, we're going to talk about images today, but you want to make sure that we're not leaning into the easy way and using stock images and finding this gentleman here, which you may have seen on the internet as many times as we have, and seen them on our client sites before we redesign them even. Something we just really want to think about, okay? And these may be obvious, okay, clearly, but there are some things that put your site in a time warp that may not be so obvious to some. Do you have Flash on your website? If so, it's really dead. It's on its way out, if not already. Browsers like Chrome block it, require you to click and make some settings to be able to view it. It's just not anything that we do on any of our client sites, and most people are moving away from Flash every opportunity they get. Another thing here is, you can see in the lower left, is a rotating hero area. What's the hero area? It's that big image on the home page that usually falls under that nav bar. That is the branded piece, the imagery piece of a website that you see in many modern sites, pretty standard, okay? But this is an evolving piece of the web. We see and have seen and even built sites ourselves where this big image area actually rotates, right? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 different images that rotate. And we feel it's very important because these are big images. It allows us to create almost this large ad and promote a certain event or something that's coming up, membership drive, whatever it might be. And we feel these big images really jump out at the user when they come to the site. Well, as time has gone on and data comes in, we're learning that people actually sort of glaze over here. They they don't pay attention. Their mind tells them this is like an ad, and they tend to jump down to more of the static content and the words on your site. So that's not good news for the rotating hero area. Also, which we all know as well, if you're the fourth or fifth slide in the rotation, you're not getting a lot of play. You don't get a lot of viewers on that slide, even though it feels like it's an important piece. So we want to think about creative ways to do that. But rotating hero areas are moving into the past as well. In RWD, which we're talking about here, responsive web design, you have to have it. It's where your site expands and contracts effectively to the size of your device that's viewing it. It's a given. You have to have it. The factors around responsive web design can be many. There's obviously design elements, but other elements at play are your content management system. So you want to think about too is, am I in this time warp of a dated site that I may or may not realize? You want to make sure that you're on a relevant and modern and recent content management system. It doesn't mean it has to be a brand new content management system that just hit the market, but it means that you should be using the most recent or the most recent version that you can possibly get onto of that content management system to make sure you're taking care of some of these more modern day practices and features, and you're not, again, stuck in a time warp with your technology itself. So that's another key piece of it here, okay? So there are a few telltale signs, right, that you might be in a time warp. So now how does that relate to where things are today? And let's take a look. We'll have Pramila take a look here at where our world stands in 2017.
Thanks, Chris. So we live in the information age, and in 2017, we live in an on-demand world. Think about it. Later today, you might binge watch something on Netflix. This weekend, I'll be able to hail a cab or a ride in minutes using Lyft. Some of us might buy something on Amazon that we already have in 3 colors in 1 or 2 clicks. So your members now, however tech savvy, are used to getting their information and services when and how they want it. So is your association site ready for these modern day expectations? Can you afford to lag behind? So let's take a look and focus on what you can do to modernize your site. We get it. There's a plethora of information out there in the world on the web, on web design and usability. So let's hone in on 5 key things you can do for your organization and for your site to consider today. So responsive web design, or RWD as we call it, to make your site, phone, and device accessible. We'll take a look at personalization to really tailor your site to your audience and to your members. We'll take a look at photos and imagery as well to update the look and feel of your site. And we live in a Google world, so let's talk about search and how searchable your site currently is. And last but not the least, content. Content, which is the very makeup and the foundation of your site. So with that, let's dig in deeper.
Yeah, so let's talk about the responsive web design. We already mentioned how critical it is. You need a smooth transition from your site experience from desktop to mobile and back. The user needs to be able to navigate your site on their phone without using their fingers and expanding, the size of what they're trying to look at because it isn't compatible to their phone. And this really it isn't just a usability issue, it's a perception issue. Okay, we're talking about being in a time warp here. What does it say about how seriously your organization takes its online presence if you don't have it? What will potential younger members be thinking if they go to your site? Likely they're thinking, these old geezers are stuck in the time warp. But we can actually take this even further, and this is where really the rubber meets the road and where the thought process behind RWD. It's not just, hey, let's make sure we bump everything into this vertical perspective so that on a phone, people can scroll through our homepage and see things pretty well. And like I said, not have to expand the screen to find certain buttons and what have you. Yes, let's do that as a given, but we really need to extend this and think about this deeper because there's a ton of opportunity. What you're looking at here is one of our client sites. On the left is their tablet version. You can see how the primary navigation is rolled up into the hamburger menu in the left, just under the logo. So that's how we know it's for tablet. But it really kind of looks like, doesn't it, just a website, and it looks just like their homepage on a desktop, more or less. So fine that we're accommodating what a tablet view can do. But now when we think about going to the phone, yes, we could have just stacked things and made the image smaller and let them scroll, up until they find all the exact same elements of their homepage on the mobile. And that's not a terrible thing, but we need to take it further and we need to think about context. So what we did, we said, we interviewed their members and we said, why would you possibly go to the ASTS site on your mobile device? Well, you're probably going to check an email that came through as a newsletter or what have you and click on a link and end up somewhere on the site. So yeah, we want it to be compatible, but why might you just navigate there? Well, what we heard was, we're definitely not going to be on our phones for what you see on the left here, this academic universe. That is our video training system on how to transplant things in people. So let's not watch those videos on our mobile phone. Maybe that's not the best screen to be watching those and learning from. So let's take that off. But also, what really are you looking at that maybe we see on this homepage and maybe we don't? Well, yeah, I would be standing online somewhere and I'd like to just catch up on the journal. What's the meetings? I quickly might be somewhere out talking to somebody and say, yeah, I know we got a meeting coming up. Where is it? And then, of course, the news. That's the freshness, and that gives people a reason to come back and to check on their mobile device as opposed to waiting until they get online, go on their desktop, and find the news section, which isn't even viewable above the fold, as you can see here. So these are the things. So you can see how it has such a different look, and that's important. You can, through responsive web design, you can virtually create what looks like and operates like a mobile app. You can put content on here that isn't even on your homepage. You can take content off your homepage and not have it show up here. So it's really, really important to think about how we can take this to the next level, right? So clearly, there's a lot of opportunity that can't be ignored here, and you really want to think about that. And really, you're missing opportunities as people navigate to your site on a mobile device if you're not doing things like this. Okay. So on to a new topic, and that's personalization. A quick definition of what we mean when we say it is this: presenting web content based on what we know about a user with the intent to optimize their online experience. That's what we're trying to do. That's our Vanguard definition. It's important because it means certain different things to other people, but like responsive web design, this is a contextual-based idea. It needs to be thought through before you engage. Knowing who you're talking to on your site is step one. It's the absolute foundation to all you do. It isn't about what content do we have and how should we put it into certain buckets. That's a part of your website process, but you want to say, who are we serving on our site? Who are we trying to serve? Because if we don't know who, how will we know what, and if what is right or not? So if you've only been thinking about your site in the means of what content we have and not thinking about who the people that are coming to the site are, you need to rethink that and maybe take a step back and consider it. And how would you do this? Well, you could do it through things like what we do is create personas and scenarios, and there's a lot to say about it, but basically they're fictional, they're written out, they're fictional profiles of your potential site visitors, the main ones, okay? You create 5 or 6 of these, and then you know who's coming to your site, and the scenario part is what they're trying to do. And think about this. It's like I said, it's just not the topical information we're looking for that's topic-based. There's actions, too. So it's one thing to say this person's coming, they want to find this information. That's fine, but this person's coming and they want to do something on our site. So we need to provide clear paths for them, conversions. So there needs to be action words. It might not be in the navigation bar. It might be on the home page. It might be in a banner of some kind, an ad type of thing. But we want to say, if you're here to take this action, follow me. Click here and let's go. Okay? Let's not leave it to them to say, well, I know the topic is an event in Seattle. I guess I'll go to the, no. Let's say, hey, you're looking to go to our next event in Seattle? Click here. Okay? Personalization adds to this experience, right? It's contextual. So we can enhance this idea of conversions and the topic-based information as well, okay? When you have personalization where you provide the information based on a user's activity, you don't know too much about them, but you know what they've been doing on the web, it's called implicit personalization, okay? You know maybe where geographically they are in the world, what their browser is, what the time of the day is, and you can show content based on that. Even on, I know you were just on this page of our website, and now you come to this page, and because I know that, I'm going to present you certain information. Or I know you've been to our website 3 times in the past 3 days, so I'm going to put this new message on your homepage. Okay? And then there's explicit personalization, which is where a member's logged in. And we can show and hide information based on what we know about them from the AMS. So we're not taking this information that we just know about their activity, but we're saying we know this about you. We know you've been to the last 3 events. Why haven't you registered for the new one? We know you live exactly here. We know you're on the board or not on the board or were 2 years ago. Okay? How can we then take that information and personalize it? Okay? We've actually done a whole webinar on that topic, and we'll provide a link to our YouTube channel at the end if you want to go check that out. It's a very good one about what it means to personalize. And with that in mind, maybe we'll just show you a couple of real-world examples here, okay? So this one of our examples, what you see on the right is a blown-up version of something that's on their site. And here they really made it simple. They said, let's provide content, not based on a topic, but based on who needs to see it, on the audience itself. They grouped it by audience. And again, nothing fancy, but it's a simple way to deliver special content. And if a member is logged in, they can see more information on these pages than someone that isn't, right? So we're delving into that implicit versus explicit conversation. So that's one example. Now I want you to check this one out because this is pretty cool. If you remember, we talked about the hero area before, and this is an international organization. In the upper right where it says Virginia is obviously what their homepage looks like when you navigate to it from the United States. They wanted to be people-oriented. They want to highlight, not stock imagery, real people, okay? But as they tested the site, the feedback they got from the international community was, this feels a little westernized. It feels like this is just, maybe about North America or the United States, and we want to feel like this is our organization too. So contextual, right? And so what they did is they personalized the hero image based on where in the world you're navigating the site to make it culturally relevant. Huge success. Does it take a little more management? Sure. Is it worth it to make sure that your members feel inclusive, especially when you're putting members of them right on your homepage? Absolutely. So again, a great use and simple way to personalize. And again, we talked about hero areas not rotating. These do not rotate. These are static. So speaking about imagery and hero images and how we do that effectively on the site, it's a perfect segue to now kick this over to Pramila to talk to you about photos and imagery on your site.
Thanks, Chris. So let's talk about trends that we're seeing in 2017 in photography and imagery. You're probably very familiar with what this entails and can look like without even realizing it. So basically, companies and organizations today are slowly shying away from that impersonal canned stock photography look and really looking to convey who they are today, that they're they're maybe diverse, global, or even an authority in their space. And we get it. It can be quite the challenge. We hear it all the time with our association clients, but here are a couple of things that you can do. You can always showcase your best asset, which is your people, your members, your staff. Use your next event, whether it's an annual conference, a small workshop, or a meeting. You can totally use these opportunities to capture the spirit of who you are as an organization and engage your attendees. Not to mention social sharing, real-time updates of photos in your Facebook or Twitter feed, even your selfies can encourage engagement, create that excitement. Not to mention, your organization gets that social lift or boost from those images. So coming up, we've got a few of our examples to share. Next up, we have NGA, or the National Grocers Association. So every year, we look forward to their annual event, especially the user-generated shots. And also, of course, if you're a foodie or a Food Network addict, it's always exciting when a celebrity like Duff Goldman shows up to their annual event. Now, you're probably thinking, well, we're certainly not going to have a celebrity at ours, but take a look at the example we just looked at on nursingsociety.org. You can totally see that they go that extra step of capturing who they are, the true spirit, their diversity, and their initiatives of their organization. Now, one more example here, different in tone, but definitely capitalizing on who they are. And this is INCOSE, the International Council of Systems Engineering. So they tend to showcase their latest event, whether it's a systems conference or a brainstorming session or a workshop. They even include spotlights on their members, either local or global, to keep it engaging. So moving on from the look and feel of your site over to functionality. I mentioned earlier that, well, it is a Google world, so let's talk about search. And let's start with a quote from one of the founders of Google, Larry Page, who reminds us that the ultimate search engine and the ultimate search experience, if you think about it, should be intuitive and useful. So the ultimate search engine, according to Larry, would understand exactly what you mean and give back exactly what you want. So how searchable is your site? Let's think about that for a second. How easy is it for your visitors or your members to access the information that they're looking for, to find what they want and even accomplish what they came to do? How much time does it take them? How many clicks till they can get there? Now, increasingly here at Vanguard, we've been required by members to expand our search offerings. Gone are the days of the basic search box, and now we're wandering into more sophisticated territory of federated and faceted searches, which we could probably spend another 30 minutes on, but just to give you a sneak peek. For example, one of our clients, NACUA, or the National Association of College and University Attorneys, they have a faceted search, which allows you to filter or drill down based on subject matter and other criteria that's really important to their members. And in this case, it's their attorneys. So that's an example of a faceted search. We also have MRS, our next example here, the Material Research Science Organization. Now, they feature both a faceted and a federated search. And federated refers to the ability to search across third-party external sources, which is really vital to their audience, which is, well, we refer to them as the heavy science audience. They've got critical search needs aimed at academia, faculty, researchers. So just an example of how we're just scratching the surface of search and how it's evolving today in 2017. So some food for thought on what the possibilities can be for your site and your audience. So with that, let's take us to the last, but certainly not the least, content.
Thanks, Pramila. Yeah, I mean, content is king. What does that even mean? We'll talk about that in a moment. And as a side note too, we'll redirect you to our YouTube channel where we have other full webinars on content itself. But as it pertains to being in a time warp, and how do we get out of that, and how does content help us do that? There are definitely things to think about on your site. We're thinking about Fonzie. We want to get out of the age of get our association website out of the age of Laverne and Shirley. For those that are old enough to remember that cultural reference, and being king simply means that it's what people go to the web for. It's what it's what makes your organization meaningful online. It's your currency to your site visitor. It's the member benefit, right? In many cases. So what else? Well, yeah, of course, timeliness of your content is critical. We get that. It's pretty basic. If you have a stagnant homepage, then you're in a time warp. So it's one thing to say, well, we know we need to put things up there, but how often do we do that? Okay. And how do we do that? Is it just manual and we have to remember to add things to the homepage when we get around to it? Well, the easiest thing to do is to put up some dynamic content, and many do this. Okay. But if you're in a time warp, you might not. Twitter feed, a news feed, or even for those more advanced at saying, yeah, look, I get it, a feed is great. RSS feed probably falls under the time warp, although some people still do that. But instead, curated content from some outside sources. There's a platform called Curata that supplies curated content. And it's something to look into that says maybe not just a feed from us or from Twitter, but maybe we can leverage some industry professionals or some industry resources to bring fresh content to our homepage. And how would we do that? Search engines like it. Members are more inclined to come back. We hear many times, people only come to our site to do a couple things, renew and register for our event. Otherwise, we just can't seem to get them to come. And then when we do, they never log in. Okay. Well, why? Where's the value? Are you established yourself as an authority, as a peer-to-peer community area where they can only share things with their own peers of the industry? Okay. There's a lot going on there. But as it comes to content too, keep in mind that just because something's old, and that's what we're talking about here, old stuff, I just want to mention, and it's fair to say, doesn't mean it has to go. And you might find some arguments around this within your organization, or already had them, where someone says, this has been out there forever, or I checked Google Analytics, no one's clicked on this page for 7 years. Maybe. But we also want to just not use that as a reason to discount, because you may be the only website in the world that has that piece of content. And that day that somebody does need it, you're the one they're going to find it. When they search for it on Google, Google will have indexed it, and it's on your site. Okay, so let's just not dismiss things. We need, again, to think about, does this one-of-a-kind content really make us who we are? And if it's fact that it is old, and it is a fact that no one's going to it, but yet it is one-of-a-kind, you see how that analysis suddenly shines a light on the fact that maybe we could promote this, maybe we could refresh it, maybe we could write a news story about it, maybe we could have the press cover something related to it, maybe we can put a new face on it somehow and regenerate information or interest around this particular information. Okay. So again, it isn't cut and dried, but the point is you do need to do some thought work around your content. Here's some ideas, okay? You need to pay attention to it. Have some rules of governance. Do the people that manage your site understand the rules of why, what the voice it should be, how to write for the web, when to write for the web? Is there a workflow of publishing, or can anybody put anything on your website? Do regular site inventory. There are automated tools that will scrape your site of all the pages it sees. Take a look if you haven't done that. in years. Do it every 6 months. Make sure you understand. Do a manual inventory if you have to. Make sure all the elements are aligning visually, copy-wise, voice. Assign owners to your content. So it's one thing to post it, but now those people own it. Do they know when they're taking it down? Does your content management system allow you to take it down automatically? And if so, is that part of your governance rule that says every time you put this up, you need to take a expiration date of this on it so that it doesn't sit out there and rot? Okay. Owners. And also a content calendar. Right. Do you know when you're posting? Do you know the 7 cycles? We'll provide you a link here, but there is a 7-step non-negotiable formula for posting content to your site. Okay. And we'll send a link out for that. A lot more to be said about content, but when it comes to are we in a time warp, these are the kind of things we want to think about. And the irony is just because it's old and we can go, look, it's in the time warp, let's think it through. Okay. You want your content to be timely, relevant to, and fresh. So with that, and we appreciate you guys' time, we're coming right in at our time. We're going to go into the wrap-up of what we covered today.
Thanks, Chris. And yes, speaking of time warp, we sure flew by here. So wrapping it all up, we took a look at RWD, a no-brainer to reach your increasingly mobile and device-dependent members. Personalization, with so many choices vying for your audience and their attention, don't speak at them, but to them with a personalized touch. Photo and imagery. Showcase your organization with its current events and offerings to engage current and enlist new members today. Search. We live in that on-demand world. An easy and robust search experience is not only a requirement, but it's an expectation in 2017. And as Chris mentioned, is your content up to date? Is it relevant at this very moment? So that wraps up our look at key 5 items for you to start the transformation today and bring your association and your website up to speed in 2017. We're so thrilled you could join us today. If you have any questions, you could definitely submit them in the QA section of this meeting. We'll make sure to answer you directly after the webinar or provide the answers at a URL you'll see on the next slide. Thank you so much once again, and you can also visit us at vtcus.com/webinars to view this recorded webinar or even catch up to our earlier sessions. Thanks again and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Pramila, for that. And yeah, I just want to highlight what Pramila said too, the vtcus.com/webinars link. We will also be sending a follow-up email. If there's any questions, we're happy to put them in the email out to you guys. But again, thanks so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed the content. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.